The following story is based on true events.
The weather was crisp and cool, as always in the small town of Birr in Ireland. By 6 in the morning, everyone was up and about, ready to start a new day. The sun was out, the birds were chirping, and only a few clouds could be seen in the clear blue skies. That was until sometime midday around 11. The people looked up at the skies, seeing everything around them darken. In a sudden, heavy clouds swiftly covered over the warm rays of the sun, leaving behind all but a slight reddish tone to the greenery that surrounded them. But it wasn't quite the gloomy atmosphere that made everyone uneasy. It was the unusual mist, a dense fog that suddenly dispersed, encompassing the trees through the empty roads of Birr. Conroy Ahern was on his way back home from work. He drove down this same narrow road every day, but today he was barely able to make out what was around him. The light on his motorbike only allowed him to see a few feet ahead as the eerie fog got more dense. Conroy slowed down the bike, fearing an accident, when suddenly he almost lost balance. He was just barely able to swerve the motorbike to a stop, nearly toppling over. "I guess I'll be walking my way home." Conroy straightened his motorbike and began walking along the hazy road. It was a long way, but eventually he started to catch a glimpse of his home up ahead. He pushed his motorbike onto the lawn and tied on the lock when he heard his wife, Maeve, open the doors and usher him inside. She looked pale in worry. "What's going on, Conroy? What's happening?" Conroy let out a deep breath as he stepped inside. "I don't know. I closed the store and decided to come back. Something's not right. There's no one left at the market. Everyone's frightened. They're shutting down and leaving." Looking out the window, Maeve stared at the fog pass by the roads in front of her house. "I've never seen anything like this." Grandmother Claudia walked into the room with her rosary dangling in her hands. She mumbled as she took a seat in her rocking chair. "It's the end. It's the end." "Where are the boys, Maeve?" "They're in their rooms." "Good." "Brendan, what are you doing? You know Mom told us not to go out. Haven't you seen what's going on outside? Brannon, I need to go see it. What if something happens?" "Nothing will happen." Brendan, the elder of the two, was desperate to see what the sudden mist was all about. He took his pocket knife, his lighter, and his flashlight and climbed out the window on the second floor. Brannon peered out anxiously. "Brendan, I don't think this is a good idea." "I'll be back in 2 minutes," Brendan called out before he jumped, landing on his toes on their backyard. The Ahern's house was surrounded by the woods on 3 sides and a small narrow path that led out to the main road in front of their home. Brendan had been watching the fog seeping through the trees from his window. But only a few steps into the wood, he began rubbing his arms. It was hard to see anything. Brendan was getting goosebumps all over his body, breathing in the moist air. A while into walking, Brendan suddenly saw a few people up ahead. He didn't recognize them, and he couldn't see them that clearly either. How were all these people walking out in this weather? Trying to get a better look, he kept walking on. When he suddenly froze, seeing the figure of a man emerging from the mist. "Uncle Calum?" Brendan asked in surprise. "Don't come near me. Go from here. Go home and close the doors. Tell everyone to keep the doors and windows locked, and don't come out." A bit nervous hearing his uncle's tone, Brendan stumbled back and hurried home. But this time, he was having trouble finding his way, seeing nothing through the mist. He scrambled through his pockets, trying to switch on his flashlight, when he suddenly gasped, bumping into someone. "Brendan, where were you?" Brendan breathed out in relief, hearing his mother. "Didn't I tell you to stay inside? Do you know how worried your father and I were? Let's go right now." "But Mother, wait. I saw... "What? What did you see?" "I saw Uncle Calum. He was right there." Maeve looked out into the fog. Overcome by dread, she quickly grabbed hold of her son and rushed back to the house. Conroy was now in the living room trying to fix the radio. Seeing his wife return with the son, he put it down and sighed. It's not working. The electricity's out. I can't get a signal on the radio and the phone's down too. Maeve nervously went up to her husband. Conroy, Brendan's saying he saw Caleb outside. What? Caleb? No. Brendan, how could you go outside like this after you saw what's happening? But father, I really did. Uncle Caleb told me to go back home. He told us to lock our doors and windows. Conroy shook his head, returning to fix the radio. That can't be. Grandmother Claudia closed her eyes as she whispered, He's coming, just like the good book says. The dead has walked. Maeve strictly warned both of her children to stay inside before she went around locking all the windows and doors. You ratted me out. Me ratting you out saved your life. With the coming of evening, the weather became cold and the skies dark. Grandmother Claudia lit a few lanterns and sat down while the boys passed time by the table. It's going to get really cold at night, Maeve. It's already cold. Let me go out and bring some firewood. What? Dad, Uncle Caleb said not to go out tonight. That can't be your uncle. No, Conroy, it's not safe at this time. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Conroy took his axe and a flashlight and went out around his house to the shed. There was a breeze accompanied by the mist that swirled in the air now. He had never been out in this much fog before and had nearly tripped a few times. As he slowly stepped on the grass heading to the shed from his memory, he suddenly felt a presence around him. He flashed his light around, but it was of no help. Who is it? Who's there? But it was silent. But Conroy was sure there had to be someone. He could faintly hear the sounds of footsteps. Identify yourself. Who is out there? Conroy continued onto the shed, feeling for the handle of the door. He took the bundle of firewood, standing still as he slowly closed the doors again, suspiciously waiting to hear the noises. But there was nothing but the eerie sound of the crickets chirping now. Conroy hurried back home and locked the doors again. That night, as he set fire to the fireplace, Maeve stirred up a pot of coddle with meat and potatoes. Huddling in the midst of the lanterns, the family warmed up to dinner and went to bed, hoping the night would pass on soon. Look, boys, you know the condition outside. Go to sleep in your room and don't open your windows, all right? After the boys fell sound asleep in their rooms, the parents went to sleep as well. The house fell silent. Until sometime in the middle of the night, Maeve woke up, startled to Brannon calling her name. Mom, Mom, wake up. There's someone knocking outside my window. What? On the second floor? Yes, Mom. Come on, come with me. Maeve woke up her husband, and the parents rushed to the boys' room, concerned themselves to find what their son had said was true. However, it wasn't just outside the boys' room, but around the whole house. They could hear someone walking outside. Wake everyone up. Let's all stay together for the night, Conroy said as he returned back to his room. He took out his rifle and joined everyone in the living room. Maeve had set the fireplace again and sat down with her sons, awfully worried. Grandmother Claudia began whispering prayers, when suddenly the family sat up, startled to a loud knock on the door. Who's there? Conroy asked harshly, but there was no reply, again. Instead, the knocking soon turned to a loud banging sound. Brendan and Brannon hurried to the windows and peered outside. Boys, come back here, Maeve said, frightened. Mom, maybe we can see who it is from here. All of a sudden, the banging increased so much that the door began to shake. Grandmother Claudia clutched onto her rosary, grasping her hands firm together, chanting her prayers loudly. The time has come. The time has come. Conroy targeted straight at the door as he yelled out, loud and clear, "Leave our property. Go away from here or I will shoot." But even then, the banging continued. Conroy put his hand to the trigger, preparing to shoot at any given moment. As the rest of the family huddled together, anxious in anticipation of what was to come next. But suddenly, everything fell silent again. Conroy could hear the sounds of the footsteps slowly fade off in the distance. He tried to keep calm and stay strong for his family, but he too was afraid inside after what happened. It was 12 a.m. There were still long hours of the night to go. Conroy lit a torch, he kept his gun loaded, and stayed on guard, pacing in the living room in front of the door all night. Fortunately, the family was left to peace the rest of the night. The sun is rising," Maeve said, seeing the few rays of sunlight seep through the curtains. Brendan jumped up to the window and peered out. "Dad, the fog has cleared. There's no more smoke." Conroy finally opened the doors, breathing in the fresh air. Every leaf, stone and twig were drenched in dew. The family finally met some relief, knowing they had survived the night. The electricity didn't return until later that evening. Conroy sat down again, trying to catch a signal on the radio, when the news suddenly turned on. "I got it! Everyone come, the news is on!" Good evening to everyone in Bear. After a strange night, today's morning has been nothing but relieving. Authorities have reported a severe storm on the south side of town being the reason behind the mysterious fog. The horrible weather had damaged the power plant, leading to a power outage and shutdown of radio and telephone connections yesterday. With everyone back in touch, the police has announced that some of the townsfolk are missing. Many people are coming forth, sharing their experience about this mysterious occurrence, claiming to have witnessed the deceased walking. Some believing, while others are skeptic, but one thing that had happened will certainly frighten anyone. This morning, some graves at the town cemetery and some in other places have been discovered dug open, and the bodies missing. We have Chief Deputy Olson with us here to give us some insight as to what happened. It was midday of yesterday when all of our phone lines and radios stopped working. We sent out our officers to patrol the town, and some of them haven't returned and are presumably missing, while 2 of our officers have reported seeing something as well. "Officer, it's hard to make out anything here. I've never seen the weather like this before. What do you think this is? Wait, I think I see something." Police officers had halted their motorbikes on a dark route, unable to navigate their way, when they suddenly saw some men walking on the street ahead of them. "Who are you?" But the men didn't answer. They simply continued walking down the road, out of sight, into the fog. We don't know what we saw last night. So there you have it, folks. The police are now trying to locate the whereabouts of the missing people. But it seems that perhaps what happened last night will remain to be a mystery. BII News, Bear, Ireland. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.